In the year since I've backed off of being the organizer of this event, thanks to the talents of Acacia and Megan, I've done a little observations. And I've come up with one very, maybe not so astute, maybe sort of obvious conclusion, that what we do on this stage and how we treat story is very different than how story gets treated in the political and private sectors. Now, my observations and collections have been going on for a while. In the 90s, I admit I used to watch graduation speeches on C-SPAN when I was single, for fun, which is probably why I got married a little later in life. Thank you, Big Dave, for waiting for me. So in that spirit, in September, I was watching the presidential debate, the one in Texas, and there were 10 of them on stage, and the moderators changed the whole tenor of the debate and asked them a single question. And they said, "What was your greatest professional setback?" The folks answered it, and the Tampa Bay Times reported that it was probably the most human moment of the whole debate. And I thought to myself, why would they take 30 minutes to ask that question? And in asking that question, I answered it, because we don't know the stories of our current leaders, and they didn't want to make the same mistake twice. So as I've been collecting both political observations and private ones from my work, I've come up with a singular question, which is, when did storytelling fall off the list of required leadership skills? Isn't it the only thing that matters? When you become a leader, the marked difference between being one or not is authentic storytelling. It is the difference between managing and leading. So because we're at an idea with events, with ideas we're spreading, I have a few for you. And in fact, I have 3. If you noticed, we live and die by 3 points. And I want to make a plea that we go back and embrace story again. We carry the themes of today and of Brené Brown and others about bringing vulnerability to those stories and doing the hard work that it requires to engage an audience, just like everyone has today. Before we talk about story, I just want to make sure everyone understands my definition of story by differentiating them between data, information, and story. So let's start. Data is, there's 40 snake varieties in Ohio. Information, there's 1 in your purse. Story is another one, actually bit me on the way out to this stage. A story at its root is a human transforming something or a human being transformed. And when people bring data and information, speakers we work with, and no story, I say, that's really great. You must want me to forget what you're about to say. And it works every time. A few weeks ago, I was invited to review 7 presentations. And my client, as I was walking into this organization, said, you know, it's going to be telling today. And I was like, what do you mean telling? Like telling, like, did they do their hard work, or telling, like, are they actually going to make a difference and be impactful? And that night when I reviewed those 7 presentations in my head, because this is what I do for fun, I remembered one thing from one speaker, and it was the only one that told a story. And so I submit to you that when you're thinking too hard about your data and information, you're probably sitting on the things that the audience really cares about. The things from the heart, the vulnerabilities, and the things that make us connect. A client and a friend earlier this year put 3 people on stage to test that vulnerability. And she asked 3 people to tell their most crucible moments in their life. Her culture had experienced some guarded leadership that was really troubling her. And these people brought their most deep and honest truths. And I thought to myself, if I was on that stage what story would I bring? So I've decided today to bring you a story I've never told in public. So it starts like this. I went to a college prep high school. I went to Miami University. I got out in 4 years with a degree in speech communication, and I launched this lovely, almost 30-year career. That's a really incomplete story. The true story is I struggled mightily as a student through middle and high school. And my children who are here to know this story, so it's not unfamiliar to them. And I didn't get into any college. My friends were getting the thick acceptance letters. I only got thin rejection letters. And as I searched for what I was going to do, the end of May 1986, this letter arrived in the mail. For those of you in the college process know that most people make their decisions well before now. And this letter was a reversal of a rejection letter that I had gotten, accepting me to Miami, my first choice, to play tennis. Now, for the record, the difference between then and the admission scandals now, I actually could, and still can play tennis. And while this letter was definitely a nod to my privilege and a well-placed phone call, I was able to go to my school of choice. When I got to campus, the tennis coach, her name was Wendy, saw me and greeted me and said, "It's so great that you chose to come here, but you can't even try out with us." And I thought, oh great, now what? Because of the same reason I didn't get in the first time, I didn't meet some NCAA requirement and was not allowed to play. The two stories that I told you, the first one and the second one, are sort of like the Instagram post versus the very large stack of grainy photos in my closet. And the good news is my wandering academic soul finally found a spark. Sophomore year, first semester in Communication 135. You all know it, Introduction to Public Speaking. It was the first A I ever got, and the rest is history. People that know me and work with me know that I have a favorite saying, which is in the struggle of time versus content in engaging an audience, time always wins as my clock hits 0. You'll have to wait 1 more minute. They said, don't worry about it. Time always wins. Oh my God, she went 20 minutes over her time. Wasn't it great? Said no one ever. Peter White, who took this stage earlier today, told me the quintessential story about time. And in my wrestling through which one to share, he shared this 2 weeks ago with us, and I had to bring it to you. So Peter, in his lab, relies on interns. The ecosystem of how they get out research has to have a variety of different positions. So that's the context. In the last few years, Peter has been unsuccessful at recruiting interns, and it's actually hurt his research. So at this year's research sort of forum, where they go and present the showcase of potential researchers that students can work with, he decided to bring his strong 10, meaning the talk he did today. The other researchers brought their long 20, their boring 30, and their sleep-inducing 40-minute talks. Peter was the only one that got questions, and when he went back to his office, he had 3 emails with people wanting to be his intern. While Peter was super hesitant to do something short, he didn't fall short because he led with stories, just like he did today. So I want to finish this talk where Acacia started today, which is with a bit about you, the audience. You give the gift that you don't know to speakers, which is what I call a consequential moment. It has a beautiful bow on it as well. You buy your ticket, you plan your calendar, you gather friends, you sit in the seats, you bring your attention and your focus and your curiosity. And in exchange, these speakers come with their data, their information, and their vulnerable stories. and they stay inside their time in exchange for you. I would like to ask and hope and wish that our speakers out there and our leaders out there can learn something from all the speakers that we've heard here today. Thank you very much for your time.